They called it the Superfortress, a flying machine so advanced that even German engineers struggled to believe its existence. To the Japanese, it seemed impossible. A bomber that could cruise higher than fighters could climb, carry 10 tons of bombs across 3,000 miles of ocean, and hit a city the size of Tokyo with surgical precision. Yet the paradox was this: when the B-29 finally unleashed its full fury, precision no longer mattered. The Americans had built the most sophisticated bomber in history, only to use it for the most primitive purpose imaginable: burning entire cities to ash. By 1944, Japan's empire stretched thin across the Pacific, its war machine collapsing under the weight of fuel shortages and blockade. Still, its cities stood mostly intact. American bombers operating from China under Operation Matterhorn had proved disappointing. Engines overheated at high altitude. Turbo superchargers failed in thin air. For every ton of bombs dropped, 12 tons of fuel were burned just hauling them over the Himalayas. It was like trying to wage war through a soda straw, Brigadier General Curtis LeMay later recalled. Yet the promise of the B-29 remained, a machine capable of bringing total war to the Japanese homeland without a single Allied soldier setting foot there. The Boeing B-29 Superfortress was a marvel of wartime engineering. 4 Wright R-3350 duplex Cyclone engines, each producing 2,200 horsepower, pressurized crew compartments, remote-controlled gun turrets directed by analog computers, and a combat radius that dwarfed anything before it. At $639,000 per unit, more than the cost of a dozen Sherman tanks, it was the most expensive weapon project of the entire war, totaling over $3 billion by 1945. Nearly 3,970 were built in 2 years, rolling out of factories in Wichita, Marietta, and Bellevue, like clockwork on 24-hour shifts. For the Japanese military command, this was all theoretical until late November 1944, when 111 B-29s appeared over Tokyo at 31,000 feet. Anti-aircraft fire was erratic, night fighters could not reach that altitude, and radar tracking lagged. Yet only a fraction of bombs hit industrial targets. The rest scattered into rivers, rail yards, and civilian districts. The Americans learned quickly: Japan's wooden cities didn't need precision, they needed fire. By March 1945, Curtis LeMay, now commander of the 21st Bomber Command based in the Marianas, made a radical decision. He ordered the B-29 stripped of their guns and armor, reducing weight by nearly 7,000 pounds per aircraft. Bomb loads increased to 14 tons each. Altitude was cut to 5,000 feet, below radar, below jet streams, and deep into the killing heat of their own incendiaries. Pilots were terrified. The Wright engines, already prone to oil fires, could ignite mid-air from reflected heat. But LeMay was unmoved. "If you kill enough of them, they stop fighting," he said in his blunt, mathematical way.
On the night of March 9, 1945, 334 B-29s lifted off from Guam, Tinian, and Saipan. They carried 1,665 tons of napalm and magnesium bombs, each M69 cluster releasing 38 incendiary bomblets designed to pierce rooftops before bursting into flames. The target was Tokyo's Shitamachi district, wooden houses packed shoulder to shoulder, home to workers for the Nakajima and Mitsubishi plants. The first flares dropped at 12:08 a.m. Within minutes, the wind, a 28-mile-per-hour gale, fanned the flames into an inferno. Crews reported turbulence so violent it tossed a 140,000-pound aircraft like toys. It felt like flying inside a blast furnace, remembered Lieutenant Robert Porter, 314th Bomb Wing, in his debriefing. Temperatures on the ground reached 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Asphalt streets liquefied. People fled toward the Sumida River, only to find it boiling with burning debris. Firestorms consumed 16 square miles in 6 hours. Over 100,000 civilians died, more than at Hiroshima, more than at Nagasaki. 92,000 buildings vanished. Tokyo's industrial output fell by 44% overnight. It was as if the very air caught fire, wrote Japanese physician Michihiko Hachiya in his diary. There was no escaping the sky. For U.S. air crews, the experience was both awe and horror. From 5,000 feet, they saw a living ocean of flames stretching from horizon to horizon, a rising column of smoke 30,000 feet high, visible from 150 miles away. Oxygen masks clogged with soot, turret windows cracked from heat. Crews returned to base vomiting from the smell, charred timber, and something else they couldn't name. Out of 334 bombers, only 14 were lost. For the Air Force, the arithmetic was brutal but simple. 0.4% loss rate for 16 square miles destroyed. Efficiency beyond imagination. Over the next 5 months, 67 Japanese cities followed. Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Yokohama, each reduced to cinders in a single night. Between March and August 1945, the 21st Bomber Command dropped 160,800 tons of incendiaries on urban Japan. Over 9.2 million civilians were left homeless. The Japanese Air Defense General Staff admitted that by July, only 33 fighter aircraft remained operational across the home islands. "We could no longer protect the Emperor's skies," Lieutenant General Tominaga Jiro confessed in a post-war interrogation. Yet victory came at an industrial and moral cost even the Americans struggled to absorb. Each B-29 mission consumed 5,000 gallons of high-octane fuel. One sortie cost more than $60,000 in 1945 dollars, roughly $1 million today. Ground crews worked 18-hour rotations in tropical heat, maintaining 100-hour engine service cycles under floodlights, torquing bolts until their hands bled. Of the 500 airmen lost in the Marianas Campaign, nearly half died not in combat, but from mechanical failure or ocean ditching. The price of efficiency was precision's abandonment. Inside Tokyo's charred ruins, survivors wandered in shock. "The city had melted," wrote journalist Haruko Nakamura in Asahi Shinbun's first post-raid issue. "Our walls were gone, our shadows burned into the ground." The imperial cabinet, initially convinced these attacks were unsustainable, soon realized the truth. American bomb production in 1945 exceeded Japan's total industrial output by a factor of 12. The B-29 had become not just a weapon, but the physical embodiment of America's industrial logic. Steel wings powered by 2,000 factories, guided by a doctrine that equated survival with productivity. When those engines thundered over the Pacific, they carried with them more than bombs. They carried the conclusion of an entire civilization's wager on war. The night Tokyo burned was the moment modern warfare changed forever. Precision gave way to scale, morality to mathematics, and humanity to the cold efficiency of industry. In one night, Japan saw the future, and it glowed orange against the sky.